Well, good morning. It's been a little bit since I've done an update. It is Monday, December 5th, 11 o'clock here in Arizona. Just a reminder that I'm making a lot of busy videos, kind of mostly for myself to remember this journey, but secondly to help anybody else who's either thinking about or going through the process. For those who've sent text messages and left comments and things supporting, I really appreciate it. Thank you for that. I don't get on Facebook very often, so I don't get a ton of chance to respond to them, but I do see them. So yeah, it's been a little bit since I updated. So this is going to be a little bit of a weird video because I'm talking about multiple different portions of the process. So surgery was a week ago tomorrow. So I had surgery last week on Tuesday. Kind of talk about before that first. My last week of kind of all liquid diet. I don't think I talked about that. So I did 2 full weeks of just liquids, and then of course the last day of clear liquids right beforehand, and then nothing to eat or drink after midnight last Monday. So kind of thinking back to that, it wasn't as awful as I thought it was going to be. I did not enjoy drinking broth after a while. I'd say the biggest thing that surprised me that I didn't like the most, and this hasn't changed post-surgery, is that being on a liquid diet, I don't like the aftertaste left in my mouth all the time. So yeah, there's not a whole lot to update on that process other than I've had a lot of people tell me that it'd be the hardest part that I have done, doing the liquid diet. Maybe they meant doing the liquid diet on both sides of surgery was the hardest part, but I have found so far since Tuesday this is much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I had my gallbladder out in 2016, I think. And so I just assumed, hey, I've had laparoscopic surgery on my stomach before. This is what the recovery timeline was like for that. And I just assumed that's what it was going to be like for this too. It has been nothing like that at all. Starting off with kind of the first day in the hospital, I don't know that I've been in that much pain in my entire life. So hopefully this isn't a discouragement to somebody who's thinking about doing it, but they basically pump your stomach full of air, and maybe the reason my gallbladder one didn't hurt so much is I had a drain tube kind of right in here that was to drain out any like fluids, residual stuff, and maybe it was letting the air that they pumped in there, the gas out, but there was none of that on this one. I was completely, no drain tubes sealed up. So yeah, that was absolutely awful. I was asking for medication for pain more than I think I have in my entire life for anything. And before anybody gets on a bandwagon saying you got to be careful, I understand. I've worked with and have friends who have suffered greatly at the hands of the opioid epidemic, and I'm not going down that road. You can be assured now, before we even get any further, that I'm not taking them anymore. But at the time, I was like, what the heck did I just do? The gas portion kind of subsided within 24-ish, maybe a little bit more hours, which I guess is actually really lucky. And then just the pain at the incision sites was what has been getting me now. I don't really know how to describe it. When I describe what I'm feeling to Jen and the way that it feels moving around, she says it sounds like it's like what she felt like when she had C-sections for all of our kids. So I told her I now know what it's like to give birth to a baby, and she did not think that was funny. But yeah, so that's been the major issue that I've been struggling with now from a pain standpoint since Tuesday. Obviously, it's now Monday. I would say they still are in a significant amount of pain, especially if I have to cough or sneeze. Good Lord. I think I've sneezed 2, maybe 3 times since surgery, and I've never been shot and I've never been stabbed, but I think it might be what it feels like. It is excruciating. Mostly on the left side. The left side, I guess, is where they have the larger of the incisions. They say it's fairly common to have pain there. It is gradually getting better every day, so that's a positive. But yeah, the amount of pain that I've been in the last week has been far more than I expected. And I'm honestly probably glad I didn't know about it beforehand. I probably still would have done it. But it sucks. So for those of you who get a little squeamish, the next part might be a little bit too graphic for you, so I will not be offended if you decide to click off. But again, like I said, these videos are more for me and for helping other people through the process who have done this. So if you know me well enough, you know I'm pretty honest and real with everything anyway, so I'm not going to change that here. So the biggest probably scare that I've had so far, one of the kind of more dangerous complications from the surgery is the potential for something on the inside where they've rerouted everything. Because again, I had the bypass, not the sleeve, so I have a new little stomach pouch that my intestines got separated, brought up, and attached to, and then the remainder of my stomach stays. I used to always think it was taken out, but it stays, and then it gets reattached lower down the path a little bit. So one of the more dangerous complications is that something in there starts to leak, which leads to internal bleeding, and one of the first signs of that is bloody stool. And so I had my first BM on Saturday, and it was jet black, which is not a good thing. Of course, I did all the internet research that I knew how to do, but apparently it's fairly common to have at the beginning of or right after surgery, just because everything inside there has been kind of aggravated and leftover residual blood from the surgery. So good news that I was having BMs, but not so great that it was that color. For those of you who have a medical degree from the University of Google like I do, I have been in contact with my doctor. He's told me what to watch for and says he thinks that it's fine. That again, like I said, it is normal to see at the beginning, and that I would need to have some other symptoms to go along with it that I don't have. So I think that's good. I mean, as of this morning, I don't think it's as black as it was before, but that may just be wishful thinking. But that's just kind of on the radar of things I'm watching. And anybody else who's had surgery should be watching. I think that's either bypass or sleeve. So I would say probably the most challenging things for me at the moment, the most challenging is getting enough fluids. They want us to be drinking 64 ounces of fluid a day. And I knew this was going to be hard for me because in the past, my MO was when I get thirsty and realize I haven't had enough to drink, I'll guzzle anywhere from 10 to 20, sometimes even 30 ounces, and then not drink again for hours. I can't do that now, so I have to be sipping water every single second, it feels like. But I don't know how much they actually consider a sip, so if I drink too much, it's just going to come back out because my new stomach pouch won't handle it. So I don't know if I'm drinking too much in a sip or not enough in a sip. But essentially, I've been spending the last week with a timer on my wrist going off every 5 minutes and taking a drink every 5 minutes. Which sometimes it just feels like there's not any room for a drink in there. And so I think the best I've done so far was yesterday. I think I hit 54 ounces of liquid. So we'll see. They say that one of the most common reasons people end up back in the hospital after the procedure is because they're dehydrated. I don't think I'm to that point yet. But if I need to go back in and get hooked up to an IV bag and take a nap in the hospital for a couple hours while I get hydrated, I guess that's not awful. But that is definitely a challenge, trying to figure that out. And that's not just something that's going to happen, just immediately post-surgery. That's going to have to be a new thing I learned to do pretty much forever. Well, I can, as the years go on, increase the size of my pouch. It will never increase to the same size as my stomach was beforehand. That's part of the reason that I decided to go with the bypass and not the sleeve. The sleeve you can stretch out a lot further and a lot easier. There were some other medical reasons that made me not eligible for the sleeve. But that I had chosen the bypass before knowing those reasons. So that's the biggest struggle. The second is the number one thing any of us who've had weight loss surgery have to worry about is protein. It's just getting in enough protein, especially right now being on a liquid diet. My protein shakes are my best friend, but even these are 11 ounces of fluid, and it takes me well over an hour to drink it. And to hit the number of things I need for protein, I need to drink 2 of these in a day, and protein is filling anyway. When your stomach is really small, it's even more filling. So that's been a challenge. I think it'll get a little easier as the weeks go on, and I can add in other foods. That should happen in a week from now. I should be able to add in what they call soft foods or pureed foods. And so I'll just have some different options for what to add in for protein than just these liquids. So that's a challenge. They knew that would be a challenge. They said we'd be lucky to get to our 60 grams of protein in the first couple weeks. So I'm not super worried there. More worried about the fluids. And then overall, my final and third thing is just that my energy level is much lower than is expected. When I had my gallbladder surgery out, I felt like as soon as they pulled that drain tube out of my stomach, which was a day and a half after surgery, I think, I felt like I was fine. Like I had no pain, no issues. Whereas this, if I get up and walk around for 5 minutes, it's like I gotta sit down. So that's challenging. Again, I expect that to get better as even this week goes on. The good news is, overall, from the beginning of the process, I'm down almost 40 pounds already, which I suppose when you're only drinking liquid, that's not really surprising. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily the benefit of the surgery yet, or just what my calorie and fluid intake has been. But I'm wearing a t-shirt today out of the house that I wouldn't have worn 3 weeks ago. So all in all, still healing, still feeling like I did the right thing. If you're the praying type, which I hope you are, I'd appreciate prayers for the whole blood in the BM thing, that's just, the normal thing that's supposed to happen, and that it just kind of passes and goes away on its own. Don't really want to have to go back in for another surgery. to find bleeding somewhere, so that would not be fun. And I think that's probably it for right now, and I'll try to do another update. I have a follow-up appointment next week, and I'll try to do an update after that's over, just to let everybody know where we're at. Okay.